I've been donated these two bikes for free as part of my challenge to flip my way from £100 to an e-bike that I plan to give away to my dad at the end of this series. Our cash pot is currently sitting at £622, so let's clean up these free bikes and see if they're too good to be true or if they can help us to get further towards our goal. After some friends and family had heard about my bike flipping challenge, they have very kindly decided to donate two bikes to me that they no longer wanted, and the main objective here is for me to try and flip these bikes, bring them up to a nice visual and functional standard, so that way somebody else can get another couple of years out of these bikes, and we hopefully will generate a little bit of money towards my challenge pot, which is currently sitting just over £600. Without further ado, let's move on to a very quick condition report on both of these bikes before we make a start on restoring them. Starting out with this Rally Hollywood. Now, I can't find very much information online about this particular bike, but it was owned originally by my girlfriend's mum, who loaned it to my girlfriend to use for university. She ended up trashing the bike, as I'll explain in a minute, and then it went into storage for about 4 or 5 years, and they finally decided that they're never going to get around to fixing it, and so it's best just to give it away. I'm estimating that this steel-framed Rally was probably bought for less than £150. It's got a 3x6 drivetrain, which is operated with these grip shift 26-inch wheels with rim brakes. Cosmetically, as you can see, there is quite a lot of dust from where this bike has been sat for a number of years. There's a tiny little bit of surface rust on these components and a few scratches, as you can see here. But apart from that, I think this bike should clean up really well. Mechanically speaking, the bike feels great. The headset feels really nice and smooth. These wheels feel the same, they feel really solid. The bottom bracket feels good as well. It even had a brand new rear wheel, tyre, brake pads, freewheel cassette and chain put on this bike. Unfortunately, right after those were installed, the pedal fell off and the thread, as you can see there, has been stripped on this crank arm. I'll talk a little bit later about how that happened. The bike was meant to be repaired but never was, and so it sat for a number of years, which is really unfortunate because when this bike's done up, I think it would make a perfect commuter bike where it's cheap enough that you can lock it up outside and not worry about it, whilst it's still in a great mechanical condition and will serve somebody well for a number of years. Next up is this Apollo Transition folding bike, and this was donated to me by my aunt, who had owned this bike from new. I think it's from 2010 and cost £200 from Halfords. The nice thing about being donated a bike, the person who's donating it will honestly tell you about the bike's history rather than someone that's trying to sell it to you. They might not be quite as honest as I've found throughout this series. I know for a fact that this bike has had very little use and it has spent most of its life sat in various sheds and garages and such. I think it might have spent a little bit of time outside as well. But you can even tell from like the braking surface has been painted black, but even that hasn't worn away yet. But it is very mucky and a little bit rusty as well. So I think really what both of these bikes need is a good cleanup, bit of a polish to get them looking their best, and then just a tune-up. Maybe we might need to replace some brake pads. You can see here we've got some frayed cables. This mechanism was a bit stiff, so probably worth re-greasing that. But again, with some minor effort, this could really serve somebody very well, especially if it's someone that has to take their bike on a train or a bus. I've got about an hour of daylight remaining, so I'm going to get these bikes outside, give them a nice wash, get all this dirt and grime off them, and then I can bring them back in here and start working on them. I've seen a lot of people using an iron fallout remover spray on drivetrains recently, so I wanted to see if they'd work well for removing the rust spots on both bikes, especially on these plastic fenders where the rust has clearly got ingrained into the paint. While it does look quite satisfying when the cleaner turns to this pink colour, it does smell quite a lot of hydrogen sulfide, and I can't say I'm massively impressed with the outcome, so we'll need to do a little bit more rust removal later on. Then I just gave the bikes a quick bucket and sponge wash with some detergent, and then got them hosed down to remove the majority of the dust and grime that was on there. Now looking to properly remove these rust spots, I'm using a combination of WD-40 and some steel wool to very gently pick up the surface rust. It really did an incredible job here, and it came up looking very clean and retained that brush finish on the handlebars as well, so I'm really impressed. See how rusty it is down here. Oh. Okay. Many of you also recommend using aluminium foil and vinegar to remove rust from the shinier finishes. I thought I'd give it a go on this rusty seat post. While this did make the place smell of vinegar for a while and made a mess of my hands, it did a great job of removing the rust whilst keeping that chrome-like finish nice and shiny.
And just apply a little bit of anti-seize on that.
It did such a good job, I thought I'd try it on those mudguard rust spots. Again, it did a great job of removing these spots. These rusty mudguard support rods look very far gone, extremely rusty, but despite that, this method was very much able to bring them back to a fantastic finish. The derailleur is getting snagged by some part of the chain, so I'm just searching along the chain for a stiff link, and as you can see there, that's the culprit. So using some GT85 and a back and forth motion, I was able to loosen it right up and remove the rust or grime that was causing it to get stuck in the first place. I know quite a lot of people are against the little plastic discs that go behind the cassettes, but as you can see in this instance, it really helps to stop the chain and derailleur from getting caught in the spokes and snapped off, like what happened to the bike in the last episode. In this case, the limit screws and cable tension needed adjustment to prevent that from happening again.
This B tension screw seems like it's quite far wound out and it's causing it to be quite noisy. So we'll just adjust this B tension screw a little bit until it becomes a little bit less noisy. How's this crank arm pedal thread ended up like this then? So my girlfriend was using this bike as a stationary exercise bike on a turbo trainer. It was her first time using this bike on the turbo, and she complained that the pedal was starting to feel a little bit loose. So I said, oh, just stop pedaling and I'll go away and get a pedal spanner. Went away, got the tool, and then on my way back, heard a clatter on the floor, followed by a, oh no. And unfortunately she carried on riding it, and in doing so, as the pedals worked its way loose, it's also stripped out all the thread. Unfortunately, that means that you can't just re-chase the threads because there's no material left on it, and the tools to be able to add a larger thread in and then put an insert in to get back to the original diameter, those kits are fairly expensive, more expensive than the crank itself is worth. Might as well give this area a good clean up whilst we're here. Kind of weird when you're working on a bike like this because you don't know if this is the last time that this area of the bike will be exposed again and will actually be properly cleaned up. Of course, you never know, people might keep this bike going for a number of years. They've got the new cranks here. All right, doesn't look too bad. This front brake needs a fair amount of attention. As you can see, the pads are worn out and this metal brake outer here has gone all rusty, and it's also got a kink in it as well. So I can't imagine it's going to be that smooth to be able to pull the cable. Brand new ones here, get that installed. There's already a little bit of grease in there, which is quite nice. While we're here, we might as well swap out the brake pads. We'll get these properly adjusted a little bit later.
This back wheel and kickstand were incredibly rusty, so I went straight back to my new best friend, the foil and vinegar. I also used a bit of GT85 as well, but again, it came up amazingly. The back wheel was covered in years of grime. I think this bike was living quite close to the sea for some while, probably in quite salty air. Just using a very light soapy solution to clean up the tyres and the hub, which now looks a lot better. The braking surface on the rally wheel is covered in the old brake pad material, so just using a very light steel wool and some brake parts cleaner to gently remove it
and bring it back to a nice clean finish. It makes the bike look far newer, and it should hopefully provide some good stopping power with those brand new brake pads. Speaking of which, I hooked up the front caliper and then adjusted the pads so that they were sitting right.
This rack is looking a little bit worse for wear. As you can see, it's got quite a few scuffs and scratches, so we'll use a bit of T-cut and see if we can remove that and get it looking nice and shiny again.
A bit of T-cut and some touch-up paint on the deeper scratches got this rack looking much newer.
This bike has got this beautiful brushed aluminium finish on this half of the frame. The only thing is, I've just noticed that it's got this very strange discoloration. I think it's in the lacquer itself. I do know this bike was sat underneath a leaking boiler. I'm not quite sure whether the water coming out of that is slightly alkaline or acidic and it's reacted with the lacquer, but I'm going to see if I can bring this up. But I really don't want to remove the lacquer either, so going to have to be quite careful here. Might just have to leave it as is, unfortunately.
I then got my trusty grease gun out, filled these bottle cage bolts to stop water getting in, and then the steel frame from rusting from the inside. The moving parts like this kickstand got a hit of grease on the pivots and moving parts. Hopefully that keeps it from getting seized up in the future. This folding mechanism was getting quite stiff, so it was really in need of some grease as well. This mechanism's all greased up now, so works quite nicely. The same treatment for the folding stem. It's good to have these operating nice and smooth if the bike's going to be folded and unfolded quite frequently.
I think these pedals are meant to fold up. Yeah. This mechanism's a bit stiff though.
Both chains then got some GT85 as per Ashley Malcolm's amazing video on keeping chains clean and protected. Just to finish off the look of the bikes, I then got them back to a nice shine. Because I've run out of protectant spray, I'm going to be using some furniture polish instead. I don't think it looks quite as good, but I think for these bikes it's perfectly acceptable. Finally, the condition of this plastic chainring protector was really annoying me, so I sanded it down and gave it a couple of coats of paint and then 2 coats of lacquer. It's quite a high impact area, so it might not last too well, but for now it certainly looks much better. And with all that, it's time for a before and after comparison on both bikes.
So what do you think?
Oh, it looks well nice. Brilliant. Have you done anything to the paintwork?
Yeah, I've buffed it up.
I was going to say it's like really nice and shiny.
I replaced the crank because that was all stripped out. Do you remember when you kept on pedalling?
Oh yeah.
When you shouldn't have pedalled?
Yeah.
And it stripped it and you did that.
Oops.
That's all fixed. So it just needs some pedals and then it's all good to go.
Yeah, looks...
You want to keep it?
Kind of do now, yeah.
Okay, so that's the Apollo transition complete. It's a bit of a shame that I wasn't able to get some of that lacquer staining out, and of course there's still a little bit of rust here and there on the bike, but I think overall it is quite a bit better than when we first had it. So the bike is in its folded up configuration right now, which is really useful for getting it onto buses and trains and such. Just showing it off next to the Brompton, you can see that it is significantly bigger when it's in its folded configuration. Yes, it's got bigger wheels and it's a slightly bigger bike. The Brompton folds up quite nice and compact, but this Apollo transition is quite fiddly to fold up, and the only thing actually holding it together is this Velcro strap that's provided with the bike. It doesn't sit quite right. If you have the wheel slightly wrong, it wants to tip and fall over. So it's not really the most practical fold-up bike, but then it is a fraction of the price of one of these Bromptons. While these bikes are fairly nice and tidy, I'll have to see how well they sell when I put them up for sale.
Normally, at this part in the episode, I'll take some nice photos of the bike and then get them listed for sale. However, with these two bikes, I've had a bit of a change of heart. See, something doesn't seem quite right about selling these bikes for a profit when I myself have been donated them for free. And because of that, I've decided to donate these two bikes to charity instead. I think a charity shop should be able to sell these bikes far faster than I'm able to, especially this time of year. And they should be able to get the same, if not more, money for them as well. And then of course, that money goes towards some good causes. Now you may be wondering what I'm going to do with the cash pot in this episode, and that's where I'm going to introduce a little bit of a change. In this case, I'm going to create a separate bonus cash pot, and what I want you to do is to comment down below what you think you would pay for these bikes. I'll then look through all the comments and find an average or a medium result, and then add that out of my own pocket into that extra cash pot. So I hope this video has inspired you to maybe go out and find that bike that's been sat at the bottom of your shed for a number of years, give it a good spruce up, and then maybe donate it to some good causes. So let me know in the comments down below what you think these two bikes are worth, and then in the next episode I'll reveal how much I'm adding to that bonus cash pot. And to see the next episode, make sure to click the series playlist here, or if you're all caught up with the episodes and you want to be notified when the next one comes out, make sure to click the subscribe button here. Thank you very much.